Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the next webinar every 2 weeks. The next Adronis or transmissions from Adronis webinar. It's good to be with all of you here today. If you are watching this now on YouTube, I just put up a Zoom link that's on the Zoom chat. So you can click on the Zoom link on the chat and you can join us here on the webinar because I'm not taking questions from the YouTube chat. I'm taking questions from the Zoom chat. So feel free to join on Zoom and you can participate live here on the Zoom chat. But it's good that you're all here. Thank you very much. We're going to start off firstly with just a bit of a warm-up exercise, and then we're going to go ahead and bring Adronis in, and he'll share a little bit of an insight introduction, and then we'll get into any questions that you have. And of course, moderating today's broadcast is Killian. Killian, if you want to come on and say hi.
Hello, yes, thank you so much. I'm Killian. I'll be moderating today's live stream. Once again, my daily reminder for anybody just joining us is that all questions will be placed in the Q&A section of the chat, just down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Otherwise, if you want to personally, go ahead and raise your hand and we will get to you in due time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Killian. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started right now with our warm-up exercise. And we're going to do a little bit more of the Xiao gong, as I was talking about on Friday's broadcast when I was doing New Earth TV Live. So we're going to do a little bit of a clearing exercise with Xiao gong, and then we're going to get right into the connection with Adronis, bringing him through, and him sharing transmissions. And of course, you guys being able to ask him questions. So what we're going to do for this is I'm just going to move back so you can see as much as me as possible. All right. What I want you to do, firstly, put this back here a bit more, okay, is just taking your left hand, okay, for men, taking your left hand, placing it here, right hand over, okay, for women, right hand here, left hand over, okay. So let's just put our hands there like that. And you can kind of just bend your knees a little bit. It's kind of like a micro bend in your knees. You're not being so stiff like a board. You're giving a nice soft micro bend into the knees. And I want you to take this moment now just to tune into yourself and just be aware of how you're feeling. So you're just giving yourself an inner scan. Just scanning yourself. How's your body feeling? How are your emotions feeling? How is your mentality feeling? If you're noticing that anything's out of sort, it's kind of like you're just putting your awareness into those spots of the body. From the top of the head down to the bottom of the feet. You're just giving yourself this scan. And you're just detecting, okay, maybe I feel that there's some physical tensions, some physical stiffness, maybe some physical aches or sores. I feel like there's an emotional situation here. Maybe I had a bit of an emotional bout this morning or yesterday or the day before, and it's still feeling like it's with me. I feel like I have this belief system that I'm still holding on to. I felt frustrated, etc. Whatever it is that you're feeling right now, I want you just to be aware of it. If you're feeling where it is in the body, it's like you're just putting your awareness into those areas of the body. Once you have done that, we're now going to go ahead and perform Xiao gong. So Xiao gong basically represents, when we look at the word Xiao, Xiao represents the idea to collect, right? Collecting. And we look at gong, we look at work, right? So collecting work, right? Where basically it's kind of like at the end of the day, you're just kind of gathering up your tools, you're gathering up your harvest, and you're taking it with you. Well, that's exactly what we're doing here with Xiao gong mixed together with the nature of surrender. Okay, so now that we have a scan of our body, we're aware of what we're holding on to, we're now going to start performing Xiao gongs. This is where we take our hands. I'm going to do it very slowly at first, just giving you a demonstration of it. And then we'll do it together. Okay, so we're just breathing in slowly. Bringing the hands up to around the brow. And then as we exhale, we're just saying within our mind, surrender and release, 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 release. Release, just stopping around the navel. And as we're stopping around the navel, we're just holding that for 3 seconds. Just holding this posture for 3 seconds. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, and release. Okay, I'm going to do it one more time. then we'll do it together. Okay, so breathing in at the brow, breathing out, saying within your mind, surrender and release, 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 release. 1, 2, 3, release. Okay, so now we're going to do that together now. So be aware of everything that you've been looking into your body with. Be aware of all those things, physical, mental, and emotional. We're going to sweep them clean. Okay, so arms up, breathing in. At the brow, breathing out slowly, saying in your mind, surrender, release, 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 release. Holding 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're going to do it 2 more times. Okay, breathing in. Surrender, release, 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 release. 1, 2, 3. 1 more time. Deep breath in. Up to the brow. Going down, surrender, release, 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 release. 1, 2, 3. And relax. All right. Okay, and so that is Xiao Gong. So it's basically incorporating the power of Qi Gong together with the power of surrender. So it's a wonderful tool. It's a wonderful practice that we can use. And like I said, you can continue to do Xiao Gong as many times as you want. Like I said, it's all part of an ancient technique. Chinese is very ancient. That's not Chinese. Qigong, Chinese Qigong is very ancient, right? And so we're using this particular practice within Qigong and utilizing it in the benefits of surrendering and releasing everything emotionally, physically, and mentally as well too. When you're doing Qigong, this is what you use to basically start off the practice. You start doing 3 repetitions of Xiaogong. Then you do your Qigong practice. And then once you're finished, you're doing another 3 repetitions of Xiaogong to conclude your Qigong practice. Sometimes we'll stand in horse stance, or we'll have another particular type of posture. It can be embracing the tree, right? We may stay there for several minutes too, as well, as that also helps with concluding practice as well too. And you feel refreshed, you feel rejuvenated, you feel replenished, bringing all of that beautiful Qi, collecting all of that Qi, right? It's like I said, you finish up the workday, you're collecting everything, right? You're collecting your harvest, you're collecting your tools, and you're now heading back home. You have done your collection for the day, okay? So that's what we're doing here with Xiaogong. We are collecting ourselves into surrender, releasing, and letting go of all those things that we're holding on to, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and just utilizing this ancient practice together with surrender and release. All right, very good. Thank you guys for joining me with that. Now we're going to go ahead and bring Adronis in for today's broadcast, or today's transmissions, I should say. And again, if you're still watching this on YouTube, remember that you can just go to the link that is pinned to the chat, and you can join us here on Zoom. And again, as Killian has said, Killian will be moderating, and he'll be going in between with the idea of questions that are posted here on text in the Q&A, and in between with the microphone on audio as well too. So if you guys do want to have a question on audio, make sure your microphone is available, make sure it's on standby, and you'll be able to ask Adronis some questions. All right. So I will go ahead now and bring him through. We're probably going to go up to about 12:30, 1 o'clock at the absolute latest. So thank you very much, everybody, for being here. Hope you're all having a wonderful weekend, and enjoy the transmissions from Adronis. And we'll begin. Here we go. Hera, Soul Star, Sirius. Adronis. We are here at this time. We bid you greetings and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this broadcast being brought forward through your internet collective consciousness. What we would like all of you to do at this time is simply allow yourselves to get relaxed, get comfortable, and tune in to the vibrations of Sirius so that you may synchronize, harmonize, and align to all of the information that we have to share. Also understand that all of the information that we shall provide is simply that of our perspective, our point of view. For all knowledge, all information, all creation itself resides within your very hearts, beings, and souls. First of all, we want to express our appreciation to Brad to enable a beautiful practice that assists in the surrendering of your being. We too would like to offer you a particular interaction right now, a particular exercise that we have utilized in our ancient times, which is simply in your language, which we would understand as expressing the heart or expanding the heart. So think of your two hands as what you would say as bills on a duck. Your left hand, a bill on the duck. Your right hand, a bill on the duck. Taking both hands and putting it right in the area of the center, just like this. As you are expanding your awareness within your heart now, you are feeling both of those hands coming out like a straight line, just like this. Opening up the hands like you are holding a ball, just like this. Expanding the ball, not fully extending the hands, but keeping them bent, bringing them back into center, forming the beak once again, and pushing out. Expanding them out, forming the beak, pushing them out. Expanding them out, keeping a slight bend in both elbows, forming the beak, expanding it out. Bringing them back, forming the beak, and placing your hands in prayer. This is not as you would term just a simple exercise, but actually a language. When we have met other particular beings that again are quite familiar with this language, we can actually read their heart light by them doing this, creating the duck bills, putting them together, expanding out the light, bringing it around, bringing the duck bills back together, expanding out the light, expanding out the arms, bringing the duck bills back together, and in prayer. So this is something that you are actually doing that's helping you to radiate your own heart energy, expanding it out into your field. You're opening your heart door. And this is very much an ancient gesture, an ancient expression, an ancient language. To you, you could see it as a practice, but it is something that we would commonly use quite often as an expression of greeting, either prior to meeting someone or during meeting someone. It is opening up the heart doors. So again, using the bills of the duck, putting them together at the center of your chest, expanding it out, coming back around, bringing the hands back together again, and repeating the process. So this is how you are opening yourselves up. You are opening up the heart channel, working together with this oval vibration, with this oval direction, with this oval gesture. And that is what we often will use in this particular form of variation that will utilize the expansion of the heart. Another version that we can use is quite simple, even a little bit more simpler than what we have just shared with this conduit. So taking your left hand here, your right hand here, putting them together in a fist and expanding it out. And this time you want to fully expand your arms out. Left hand here, right hand here, making a fist, expanding it out, fully extending the arms. This one, we would say, is a little bit more common amongst the galactic community. Left hand, right hand, putting the fists together, expanding it out. And for those who are quite heart-centered, you are giving a beautiful expression of yourself. In fact, we would call it a gift, by you just performing a simple greeting of that nature. Left hand, right hand, fists, extending them out all the way. And as we stated when we worked with the duck bill, in that way of utilizing that expression, again, just bringing it out, and again, creating something much more circular here, but also representing a wave, a gesture expression of a wave of love that greets everyone whom you are in connection with, whether it be one or whether it be many. Blessings to all of you. Blessings to all of you. And we want to thank you for enabling us. We want to thank the conduit as well, too, doing his best to share what we are attempting to share with him to best express it. Because this is, as you would say, not just a greeting, not just a practice, but a language. And we are happy to share that language with all of you here and now today. So we thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction. We will now open the floor, as it were, and begin a question and answer period with all of you. Thank you. And how may we assist you today?
Thank you, Adronis, so much. That was a beautiful language that you shared with us. We all appreciate it. We're going to start with some of the written questions. Today, we start with Diana, who asks, thank you, Brad and Adronis, for your loving collaboration. My question is related to something Brad said in his Friday Live about commands of power. I've outlined many books about personal growth, spirituality, and coaching that I will write over the next few years. When accessing my Akashic records, I was asked to energize the books. My guide said that when people read or listen to the words in the books, these have an energy potential to activate their DNA. Could you give me some more insight as to exactly how I energize the books? Is it done through intention? Oh, go ahead.
Yes, it is much more in the idea that is being done by the subconscious. It is not through your conscious self that you are doing this, because your conscious self is not actually aware of what you're actually putting that represents, as you would commonly say, spells or commands of power within the book. Yet nonetheless, that's what's happening. You see, the greatest way for all of you to communicate with the higher self, to communicate with the greater extensions of who you are, actually comes through the funneling of the subconscious. So you will notice that when you are writing a book in that particular way, and it just feels like the words are simply writing themselves, whether you're writing with a pen or whether you're writing with a keyboard, it really doesn't matter. The effect is there because it's the intention. So when you basically, as you would say, get lost in the writing, get lost in the printing, get lost in the typing of your material, that is actually what brings about a clear energetic. In that way, could also be referred to, yes, as the commands of power, because you are receiving this from the source. So the source will always come through in a subconscious way. It will not come through the conscious self. The conscious self in this way is very much where the ego resides. So when you are working together much more subconsciously, where the words are becoming themselves, when you're typing on your keyboard and the words are just becoming themselves, and you're even profoundly amazed about what you're typing, that is what we would consider to be the grand moment. Indeed, yes, the commands of power. So when people read this, they realize that that signature that's being put through the words of the book holds a certain grandness to it. And that too would represent the nature of the commands of power. So yes, we would confirm that what you are doing here is indeed offering not just healing, but alignment, but centering back into others that are helping them to recollect themselves by the words that are being given to you through the flow of the subconscious. Very much to how Brad is communicating with us right now, it is all coming through subconscious dialect. It's not coming through the conscious self, or if it was coming through the conscious self, it would sound more like this. Oh, well, we would say that, yes, this is fine, and we will try our best to do this, etc., etc. You see how it gets quite clumsy. But when you start to flow with the subconscious, the conversations become themselves. The expressions of the words become themselves. How we dialogue with each and every single one of you differentiates the idea of how a conscious self, or as you would say, ego-based communication would forge itself together. But this, again, is relating more to the nature of the subconscious. So as you start to communicate through the subconscious, to which the flow itself naturally emerges, this is where your materials that you create, be it through the idea of a book, be it through the idea of a poem, be it through the idea of a work of art, be it through the idea of working in the garden, be it through the idea of bathing yourself or having a shower, be it through the idea of dancing. All of these correlate together to subconscious properties. Therefore, you're dancing without trying to think about dancing. Therefore, you're tending to your garden without thinking about how to tend to the garden. Therefore, you're showering without trying to intend about how you're going to shower. Or write based on that you're no longer intending to write. You're just letting the flow of it come together. Your conscious self stays out of the equation. Your conscious self is that cinder block. That's the gigantic cinder block that comes in and tries to obstruct everything because it's trying to control, it's trying to command, but it does not know what it's doing. You might as well hand over your keys to your car to a 3-year-old, thinking that they are going to be able to drive it when they can't. Well, that is very much the nature of the conscious self-ego, the separate self. Thinking that you can hand over the key of divinity to it, it would not know what to do. It would just drop and fumble the key all the time. It doesn't know what to do with it. So when you're leading through the conscious self, you have to understand that the conscious self cannot flow in the nature of, as you would say, working with these healing words, with these commands of power. You have to let the conscious self subside. Let it feel like it's being carried off by the wind. And all that remains right now is just the natural flow of your subconscious. Well, Adronis, when I'm there, I don't feel like I know what I'm even doing. That's the point. The subconscious is directing you, it's guiding you. It's like you being the wind. It's like you're made out of paper, and there is a gentle breeze, and the limbs of this paper person are just flailing in the wind, but we're seeing that there's actually something quite beautiful that's coming out of those flailing limbs, to which the limbs are being guided by the gentle breeze. And that is very much the idea here when you're working through, as you would say, healing words, healing codes, through what you would also term as commands of power. It's you letting the breeze of the wind carry you forward. The wind is the intelligence. You are simply the vessel that is now completely open and receptive to the movements, as the movements themselves need to coordinate themselves to bring about an appropriate junction relating to healing work. Whether it's writing, whether it's dancing, whether it's singing, whether it be anything of that nature. It's you letting the divine express itself through you. And that is the healing power. All right. We thank you for your question.
Thank you, Diana, for that question. We move on now to Hiroki. Hi, Adronis. Would you be able to share any tips for conscious dreaming or dream yoga? Thank you always for your insights, teachings, and recommendations, Hiroki.
It would be very similar to the idea of what we have just shared. So when you're looking at the idea of dream yoga, many of you want to have what you would commonly refer to as directed dreaming or intended dreaming. So it really is no more different than, as we say, let the subconscious guide you. Be the subconscious. You see, when you're the subconscious, it's not to say that you, who you are, is being pushed aside and something outside of you is moving forward. No, it's the idea that you're peeling away a layer that is very hard, that is very rough, that is in that sense very uncooperative. Again, it's like that cinder block. So when you decide to do directed dreaming or yoga dreaming, quite commonly this is referred to as yoga nidra, which is referred to as yoga sleep, otherwise can be referred to as psychic sleep. Now, when you're performing yoga nidra, you're noticing that you're getting yourself completely relaxed, because that's all yogic sleep is. It's referred to as yoga nidra. You're getting yourself relaxed. You start to become more aware of the body. You start to become a lot more aware of the environment. And you have settled yourself down to where the conscious self really is not even in the picture. In Yoga Nidra, you will also notice that you perform something that is referred to as sankalpa, which is the intention of the soul. What is the soul's intention for going into yogic sleep? What's your intention? Is that to heal yourself, to heal the physical body? Is that to improve your memory? Is that to explore your own Akashic records? Whatever it may be, it's your sankalpa, it's something from the soul. It is the deepest soul intention. So Yoga Nidra in that process is basically giving you, through its own systematic approach, everything that you require that's getting yourself, the conscious self, out of the way, so that only the natural subconscious form of yourself is now coming through. So you may feel that you may astral project yourself out of your body. You may start to project yourself into different dimensions, upon different worlds. You may start to feel that you are becoming lighter than air. You may start to feel that you are incorporating a chorus of colors flowing through you, starting from the bottom of the feet, working all the way up to the top of the head. And that these healing colors are like a symphony, a chorus that is working on energizing your organs, working on energizing the muscles of your body, your nervous system, your limbs. Everything feels completely in a state of heavenly bliss, because you've gotten out of your own way. So by stating your sankalpa that represents the soul intention of yourself, that's all that's required. The rest is simply letting yourself relax, simply letting yourself be at ease, not dis-ease, but being at ease itself, and letting the chorus of the subconscious, like that beautiful breeze, flow through you to fulfill everything that you are wishing to fulfill through the purity of the soul's intention, to which is termed as sankalpa. That would be an idea, because that's all yogic sleep is the nature of what you would term as yoga nidra. All right, we thank you for your question.
Thank you, Hiroki, for that question. Thank you, Adronis, for that answer. We now move on to Nancy, who asks, can you tell us how many emerald tablets exist on Gaia and the history of them? Thank you.
The emerald tablets do not actually exist upon your earth. That's the difference here. When you're looking at the emerald tablets, to which you would refer to either Hermes or Thoth or Tehote or any other particular name you wish to utilize, much of the true tablets do not exist within the physical plane of the earth, but they are in that sense, actually, we would say, within the mind of every soul, within the mind of every being that is here. It is a tapestry. It is not the nature of an amount, as it is the nature of a vibration. When you're looking at the tablets, it is utilized in that way based upon the error of that time that represents that when you have a tablet, you have information that is divine. You have knowledge that is being scribed in this way. But the scribing does not come upon stone. It does not come upon gem. It comes upon the nature of the psyche itself. Therefore, every single one of you have the ability to access the Emerald Tablets, because really what it's teaching you is how man themselves can be God. That's what it leaves. It tells you of the entire history of mankind. It tells you upon the entire history of how man themselves came to be. It tells you of the entire history about why man has been placed upon the earth, about what man is here to do, of what man is here to experience, and their relationship to the divine and their relationship to God. But it needs to come through a certain level of, shall we say, vibrational maturity. When there is a certain level of maturity within yourself, you will therefore have the ability to go into the halls of Amenti and being able to look at, as you would term, the emerald tablets themselves, because it was not meant to be placed upon this earth. It was meant to be placed within each and every single one of you. It's inside your hearts. It is part of what you would know as the living history that exists within every single human heart. And so there is a requirement for yourself to reach a certain level of vibrational maturity to therefore move into the halls of Amenti, the Akashic records, as it were, and go within your own psyche, because this is exactly where the tapestry of the Emerald Tablets exists, to which Thoth, Tehote, etc. knew this, because he was indeed a divine architect. It is looking much more at a force of nature to which Thoth himself represented. He represented much more of a force of nature. He represented much more of an energetic. And it is that energetic that exists within each and every single one of you. It is encoded in your DNA. It is encoded in your own psyche. It is encoded in your mind. And so when the student is ready, the teacher will reveal themselves. And this is what we can say pertaining to the Emerald Tablets. They are, as you would say, a reminder of how man can be God. All right? We thank you for your question.
Thank you so much for that question. We appreciate it, as well as that answer. We now move on to those who have their hands raised. Gail, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk. Just remember to unmute your microphone and then begin speaking when you are ready. Thank you.
Hello, Kellyanne. Thank you. Hello, Brad and Adronis.
Hello, Gail.
So a few weeks ago, I asked you, that when I pose a question, it all of a sudden appears in videos, and Adronis answers, and you said, well, I'm standing in a river, and then my answers come. So I posed a question, and I asked what was the law of one, and a bunch of things come up. One was the law of one answered, and so I listened to that, and then Bashar had what is consciousness, and they all said it seemed like what it was saying was that the law of one was disconnected from all that is, like it had no self-awareness. There was a version of all that is aware and has all the things that is what we know of as us, and then you have the one, which is not connected and not aware, has no self-awareness. But it seemed like
it's more so appropriate to look at the nature of one has an awareness of itself. It only understands the infinite. Therefore, anything that does not represent the infinite, it is not aware of.
Wait.
So anything that represents the finite nature of the mind, the infiniteness of what you term as God, the infiniteness of what you would term the divine, everything that represents the true infinite intelligence is only aware of its own infinite intelligence. Anything that represents a finiteness, like what you would find pertaining to an object within the mind, the infinite intelligence is not aware of that.
Okay, so does that have anything to do with AI
No, this has nothing to do with AI.
Nothing that, okay.
The nature of the infinite intelligence is that it is aware of its own infinite awareness. Now, when you are dabbling with the mind, let's say, for example, that you are very fond of artificial intelligence. When you're looking at artificial intelligence, what does it truly represent? It's nothing but an olive branch. It's nothing but an extension of man's own, shall we say, realizations of intellect. It moves itself into a mimicking. It mimics. It negotiates in a certain way, and it basically tinkers with many facets pertaining to life. Now, infinite intelligence itself is not aware of AI whatsoever, because that exists within the mind. Everything that exists within the mind has a beginning, a middle, and an end, which we term as finiteness. It comes and it goes. The infinite intelligence is not aware of that. You see, this is why you are functioning as the bridge, because you are infinite intelligence, and you have plunged yourself into the mind, getting an understanding pertaining to these finite aspects of what the mind itself represents. Therefore, you're being a mediation between the infinite and the finite. The finite is not aware of the infinite. The infinite is not aware of the finite. And that is where there is the bridge in the middle, to which you yourself serve as.
Okay, and so one last thing. Let's go back to AI for a minute. Was that brought in here from a alternate universe? Like, I had heard something that the Draco.
You really would not be able to understand it even if we told you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because I'm trying to write about it, and it's really hard when I
Well, we
don't.
understand that, because many of you are trying to understand its origin, when we basically telling you're the ones that came up with it.
Okay. That
But
explains
again,
it.
it's something that really would not make sense, because, oh, Adronis, this comes through ancient times. It's been here since, as we would term through mind, the beginning. Yes, but you're the ones responsible for it. So again, this is why we can tell you this, but it really would not bring about a clarity, because here's the thing. The physical mind does not understand the nature of, shall we say, the differentiations pertaining to time and sequence. It gets too confused. So the whole idea in that sense is saying that the nature of artificial intelligence is around for as long as there's been invention.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll have to listen to that all over again for it to sink in really well, but thank you. That was really good.
We thank you as well. Questions?
Thank you, Gail, for those questions. We move now to Helen. Helen, I'm going to allow you to talk. Just remember to unmute your microphone and begin speaking when you are ready. Thank you.
Hello, Adronis.
Hello, Helen.
My question is on the working with the physical body of the human body, that it seems around later in life, often people break their hip and then the human body extinguishes. My question is there a reason that hip breakage causes the human body to lose its life force?
Well, basically, you have to understand that the hip itself correlates itself very closely to the nature of the spinal column. It is basically a fragmentation of the spinal column. And what actually happens is there's leakage. Now, it is not immediate. It happens over time. But it's very much in that sense of what you would know as a type of puncture. And when the spinal cord itself becomes punctured, you will not be able to operate. What's happening is there's a leakage of your own life force that actually gets damaged to the hip, to where the life force itself extends itself through the hip. So everything pertaining to that form of vertebrae itself is a slow leakage. It is not immediate, but it is something that over time becomes a leakage to where there can be, as you would say, a shortening of life. This would represent, as you would term, the nature of expiration or extinguishing.
Thank you. And then is there it seems currently that there is an increase in, at least in my community, of shoulder issues that are coming up. Is that also a leakage issue?
That depends in regards to how the shoulder is compromised.
Okay, let's say, so tell you the compromises I'm seeing, is that what you're, to get
That
to
all depends in regards to how the shoulder is compromised. Is it severe or is it minor?
Some of these.
What is it that gets damaged? Is it the shoulder blades? Is it the rotator cuff? Where is it in that sense that is actually causing the damage? Where does the damage itself lie? And what is the extent to the damage?
I would say these are more non-abrupt injuries. They're more like a chronic, it feels like a chronic inflammation that
So shoulder, shall we say, shoulder lack of integrity, or basically shoulder misalignments, often stem from the hips. So where there is much more hip misalignment, the idea of the spine, the idea of the shoulders, the idea of the neck itself can be compromised. The hips themselves represent a stability foundation to the entire body. When they are compromised, as we said, this also affects life force. If you truly want to repair your shoulders, we would suggest first that you work with your hips, making sure that they are aligned. Therefore, everything else starts to fall in place. In fact, common chiropractors will tell you this every day.
Thank you. Then my last question is to the wrists and the ankles. Typically, and I'm familiar with the aligning of the sacrum and things for the body, that I was just wondering if there's another, as I'm seeing it differently in the human body right now, that there's an increase, it appears, of inflammation or toxicity that moves through the shoulder and the hip.
Inflammation is not toxicity. Inflammation is a defense mechanism. Inflammation is utilized in that sense to assist in the ceasing of particular forms of bacterial or viral or fungal infections within the body. So it is a trigger response to the idea of something that is threatening the body. Inflammation comes together as a natural defense mechanism of the body. It is not the viral or bacterial agent itself. That's your body defending itself when it is inflamed.
Defending itself. Okay. Thank you, Adronis. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We thank you for your question. Questions?
Yes, thank you so much, Helen. We move now to one more hand raise and then we will move back to the written questions. This one comes from Justin. Justin, I'm going to allow you to talk. Go ahead and unmute your microphone and begin speaking when ready. Thank you.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hello, Justin. Yes, we do.
Awesome. This is cool. All right. So the question I had on mind was about the planets and the consciousness of the planets.
Yes.
When people work with, for example, magic and astrology, what are they summoning when they are, making their birth charts and doing rituals for the planets? What consciousness?
Well, they're not summoning everything. They're basically intaking the nature in regards to the qualities of the planets that therefore represent a reflection of how you see yourself, because you have to understand that you're a soup. You're a soup relating to all of these different blending of energies through your parents, through your extended family, through your ancestors, through the earth, and through the planetary bodies that exists. It's not that something in that sense is being intended or in that sense enforced in any way. It's just a reciprocation of the reflection of how you see yourself to where your family, your extended family, the planet, the planets are therefore being these mirrors of consciousness telling you more about yourself. No more different than how a gauge would.
Okay. Do the planets themselves have consciousness?
Yes. Everything has consciousness.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Thank you so much.
All right. We thank you for your question. Questions?
Thank you, Justin, for that question. We appreciate it. We now move back over to the Q&A section. An anonymous attendee asks, hello, Adronis. Will humans meet the human guardians that Brad talks about that are us from the future, or are they just here to watch over certain things and go back when the time comes? Thank you.
It's not to say that some of you have not already met them. Some of you have. Some of you have not. It all just depends in regards to the person or persons in question. But the nature of the human guardians in that sense is that they are functioning as facilitators, overseers in this particular way, as the next level in regards to the appropriate phase that is bringing Earth into its next level of evolution. So they have been seen as the moderators, the facilitators, the overseers of this particular work. As we have said, some of them have already worked together with your own, as you would say, ground crew. They do work with, as you would say, appointed leaders on your planet. Some of you have also associated together with what you would term as the human guardians, because they are very much like you. Some of you may actually have direct communication with them telepathically, or again, through other forms of inner sensory means. Some of you may have also met them physically, because they do, shall we say, come upon the planet from time to time. So the nature of the human guardians is that, yes, you would understand them to be yourselves from a particular future timeline, but they also work together in a mix with those who are, as you would say, off-worlders. So again, no one really knows humanity more than humanity does. This is exactly why the human guardians, as they have been loosely termed, are therefore here and put into the state of position to helping yourselves move forward into the next phase of your evolution. All right. We thank you for your question.
Thank you for that response, Adronis, and for that question. We now move on to Marion, who asks, hello, Brad and Adronis. I pray you can help. How can I regain my passion for living after a series of tragic losses? Home, money, job, love relationships, and now health. I have tried to change my limiting beliefs, but no luck yet. I want to write or do art to make money, but have little energy and lots of fear. Thank you.
Well, you have simply decided to put too much fear into that which impairs you, rather than being able to put much more intention towards that which is enriching you. And that's the whole idea. You want to train yourself to soften away everything that represents the nature of fear, of anguish, of anxiety, of despair, of suffering. You see, you feel that you cannot get out because you're putting much more of how you are victimized by the nature of suffering. So suffering becomes this beast, becomes rampaging, and it becomes very intense, as if you're looking at it on a Richter scale, like a large earthquake, and you see all these waves. But who is it that is giving it all of that power of the waves? It's yourself. Which means you have already decided that suffering needs to be the forefront of your life, because the nature of what you say to justify your degree of suffering is what keeps you inside that box relating to the injuries that you have sustained, whether they be physical, emotional, mental. You are giving it all of this fuel. You are giving it all of this kerosene so that the fire continues to expand itself greater, so that it becomes a raging inferno. But at any particular time, you can turn off the supply to the kerosene, and the fire now starts to dumb down, and it starts to snuff itself out, because you are now making a conscious decision to surrender the nature of your suffering. And all we're really doing for that is to go in here. Just as we have expressed to you earlier, the left hand, the right hand, make fists, expand, and extend the hands out. How difficult is it for you to do that? What is it that you're doing when you're making that simple expression? You are expressing the heart. Why do you do that? Well, I do that because this is truly what is within me. It is my love. It is what I am. And I am expressing what I am to all of you truthfully. Now, what does it feel like to express the nature of your suffering? It's anguish, Adronis. My teeth get all clenched. I start grinding my teeth. My limbs start to get all tense. My muscles start to get all tense within my body. I feel like I'm stiff as a board. I'm aggravated. I can feel this heat that is coming so strongly within me. I feel like I want to burst. Is it comfortable in any particular way? No, it's aggravating. It's horrifying. It's so intense and it's draining my energy. So why are you expressing it? Can you provide an answer? Because I feel like I'm a victim of my own suffering. Because I have this problem, because I have that problem. Well, we just told you how to do this. Was that a problem? No, that's an expression of great love. Did that involve you to clench your teeth, to grind your teeth, to tense up every muscle inside your body and feel like you had to completely strain yourself just to gently do this? No. So why do you choose to do that which drains you over something that enriches you? Can you tell us? Because you don't have an answer. Because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're putting yourself into, which means that you're ignorant of the resolve that represents the idea of you feeling like you are completely in a state of surrender, in a state of suffering, but cannot surrender. That feels like a resolve, but it's not. I just have to keep expressing this suffering. I just need to keep expressing myself, and maybe at some point it'll go away. That's my resolve. No, it will not work that way. That is an illusion. In order for you to end suffering, surrender is the one and only resolve. There's nothing else to do. You can try to express all of that anger, all of that bitterness, all of that despair, all of that sadness, all of that anxiety, all that you want, but it's not going to liberate you. It's not going to bring you into, as you would say, the heavenly spheres. It's going to compress you. It's going to make you feel so tense that you feel like you cannot even perform or do anything relating to accomplishment. It leaves you inside this box, and it feels like the walls are closing in on this box more and more, squishing you like you're made out of putty or Play-Doh. That's what it does. Suffering compresses, and it squeezes, and it becomes tense. It's like the charcoal that is tightening itself up, and at some particular way will produce a diamond when the pressure ends. That's what's happening with all of you. You're all lumps of coal. And through the nature of your suffering, you're going through this great deal of compression, this great tightness, until you finally break the shell and the diamond is revealed inside. And through that diamond, everything is possible. Through that diamond, you see the self. And that's what surrender does. You see, many of you can come up with many different stories, because we've heard a whole bunch of them over the years, about how you've been hurt, about how you've been injured, about how a person has harmed you, about how you've lost your job, about how you hardly have any money, whatever the situation is. And we continue to say to all of you, the story doesn't matter. It's how you compose yourself through you living through that story that keeps you in confinement, that puts you inside that box, shackled, tightened, compressed, going through this great strain of suffering because you identify with it. You identify with your suffering. And that is only going to create more suffering. You are going to make yourself more sick. You are going to injure yourself a lot more. You are going to feel like you're betraying your own feelings. You are going to feel like you're betraying your own self. You're going to feel like you're betraying others. You're going to feel victimized. You're going to feel abused. You're going to feel abandoned. You're going to feel like you want to run away. You may even go into addictions. Why? Because I'm coping with suffering. And we would say the majority of people on the planet do this. They cope with their suffering. They don't resolve. Because even in your common mainstream therapeutic practices, all they're really teaching you to do is how to cope with you being a suffering soul. You're suffering. Oh, well, just cope with it. It's okay. Just suck it in. Just swallow it down. And that's all there is to it. No, that is going to cause you to abide in suffering. Doesn't matter what you have, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual suffering. It's all suffering. Because again, you have tucked yourself in a corner and you have let the shadow be your only company. And everything that represents sabotage and pain and suffering has now become your one and only companion. You identify with your suffering, and that's why you suffer. You cope with your suffering, and that's why you suffer. This is what is degrading the body. This is what is causing it to go into decay. This is what's causing it to go into atrophy. So, Adronis, what do I do? Surrender. Soften everything. Lighten everything up. Make a decision A conscious decision that the energy I'm putting forward through myself is going to lead to my well-being. It is going to lead to expansion. It is going to lead to bliss. It is going to lead to happiness, because when I truly desire that, it will be done. Nothing will contradict you. But you are only basically contradicting yourself because you think that you coping with suffering is going to get you to get some type of helping hand and get somebody to pull you out of the mud. There's nobody there to pull you out of the mud. There's nobody there to pull you out of the quicksand. That comes through you. You have to be the one that grabs a hold of the branch, and with one simple pull, you now rise from the quicksand. I choose love, and that branch that I've chosen is hanging right here, and it's a branch of surrender. And I pull myself up with ease. Otherwise, I'm fighting and I'm struggling, and I'm eventually going to let the quicksand of suffering consume me. And as long as I'm consumed by suffering, I come back again and again and again with the suffering still with me until I learn to let it go and surrender, to realize who and what I truly am. Because as long as I identify with the body, as long as I identify with the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, and the sensations that make up the mind, I therefore stay in the identity pattern of suffering. This is all really what it takes, is to shift your focus, to come into surrender, to completely soften, lighten, let go of everything, and come back into your center and be the heart of surrender. Surrendering brings you into center. Anytime you're off center, you're sinking in the quicksand. And as we said, it does not matter what you have. Again, even if you're seeking to make money, that still represents suffering. You still feel you need something. If I don't have money, then I'm incomplete. And again, you go back in the quicksand again. It is not about the idea of some type of outer circumstance that is going to be your savior, that's going to be your goal here. It's not about you making money. It's about you being centered. When you are centered through surrender, everything is available to you, not just some things. Everything's available to you. And now you can expand yourself in ways you couldn't even imagine. You don't care about the nature of money because you're being naturally supported through your center. Your center supports you. Surrendering supports you in every step of the way. That goes far beyond finances. That goes far beyond money. Can I acquire it? Yes, I certainly can, but that's not all there is. There's everything here that I'm available to me because the mind now listens to me. I am the sovereign. And the body and the mind are my support systems that obey me. I don't obey them. I'm not at the mercy of the body and the mind anymore, because that is the creator at the mercy of their own creations. And that doesn't make sense, does it? It's because you have bought into the illusion, you have bought into the Maya of thinking everything that exists in the mind has a dominion over you. And that is a child who feels like they're bowing down in reverence to the very figurines that they have fastened themselves. That's what you're doing. So we want you to contemplate this, not just to the questioner, but to all of you, because this is something quite commonly that you're all going through. When you come into your center through surrender, that is all you ever require. All right? Thank you for your question.
Thank you for that question, Marian, and thank you for that wonderful answer, Adronis. We'll move on now to Anna, who asks, Dear Brad, dear Adronis, can we actually tap into parallel universes that we exist in? And could you explain the concept of parallel universes? Thank you.
You're already living in parallel universes right now, every single moment that you exist. You see, there's no such thing as a linear universe. Every frame to which you exist exists in some particular form of, shall we say, mental coordination, mental, shall we say, stream of awareness. So what you're doing is you're allotting yourself frame by frame, going into every other particular form as you would say, mental stream that is enabling a sense of continuity. The continuity itself is a technology. And so through the allotment of frames that work together with the nature of reality itself, it's not that they're even parallel reality. There really is just the one reality. The one reality is the screen. Everything that represents the image is through the nature of the mind. The mind is the externalization of thoughts. And these thoughts all represent scenes. They all represent, shall we say, dimensions. They all represent pictures, like you're putting in a carousel and you're expressing them all through that way. And this happens seamlessly and brilliantly. But that's happening all the time. Now we get an idea about what you're trying to say. What about alternate themes to which I'm exploring right now? Let's say, for example, that when I was 5 years old, I was involved in a car crash. And there's another theme that I could explore where I was completely free of that car crash. Can that happen going back into 5 years old? No, because you cannot undo what has been done. But see, even if you experienced an alternate theme, you would have no idea that it was actually an alternate theme. You would still make it a part of a merit of your life. So if we were to zoom out of your life and thinking that at age 35, there was a boating accident and you fall into the water and you barely survived getting eaten by a shark. From that particular perspective that has been merited through the nature of your experience, you would never understand that to be an alternate theme of experience in the first place. You would not be able to see it as a parallel dimension in the first place, where we could show you a million different things that could happen at that particular point. But the only reason you're realizing that now is because something has already happened. Something has already happened, and you're spending so much time through logic trying to say, what if this happened? What if I didn't go sailing that day? What if I went by an airplane instead? All you're really doing is you're just mixing it up with the ego mind, pertaining to hypotheses. And many of you feel, can I experience some type of alternate theme, some type of alternate dimension to what I'm going through? But as we stated, everything that you are going through right now requires the clusters of all forms of dimensions that are allotting themselves to giving you the appearance of motion. But the only reason you actually feel that you're going into something alternate is because you're reflecting back on something from what you term as the past, to which what a thought itself represents. A thought is an instance relating to something that has happened, not something that's happening. So really, we would be saying that you wouldn't even know about you being in an alternate dimension because you have no reference of it relating to what is happening here and now. As we have said, that when you are completely here, you are in your center, everything is available to you. We mean that very literally, which means you can look through past the confinements of time, and you can look into all of these different forms of probable realities. But again, it all just comes to the nature of thought. Anything that you would consider to be a parallel dimension to what you are experiencing right now is nothing more than a thought. It's a recollection. So this is why we say there really is no such thing as an alternate dimension. An alternate dimension is a choice. It is a potentiality. It is not an actuality. Because what is actually happening is where you are right now. That's the actualization. Anytime you're looking at an alternate dimension, you're looking at a thought. You're looking at a choice. You're looking at your free will. And that is not an actuality, but a potentiality. For instance, Brad could get up right now, go over to this window, open it up, go into his kitchen, and go grab a glass of water and come and sit back down. Is he doing that right now? No. Why isn't he doing that right now? Because that simply exists as a potentiality, not an actuality. He remains here communicating with us, communicating with you. You see? So all of this really just becomes hearsay, representing potentialities of thoughts, free will, as you commonly term. If we were basically to come into your space right now and start tickling you under the armpits and then vanish, do you feel that that was a part of free will? Oh, maybe so. No, it was a part of actuality. It's part of the will, not a free will, not a choice. If we were to come right behind you and tickle you and then just fade away, you won't even really have a moment to contemplate about what just took place in the moment. You're just receiving the result of being tickled under the armpits. Has nothing to do with free will. It had everything to do with actuality, with the will. You see, that's the difference. There is really only the one will. There is no such thing as free will. There is no such thing as choice, because they all exist as potentials and not actualities. And that's the difference. Therefore, everything that you are, everything that you are experiencing here and now is all part of the grand makeup, which makes this mind stream of continuity happen. That's the idea. All right. Thank you for your question.
Thank you for that question, and thank you, Adronis, for that answer. We now move on to Liliana, who asks, "Hi, Adronis. Does the practice you just showed us help with going through the end of a relationship due to differences in belief?" And I believe she's referring to the practice that Brad showed us with the language, or I'm sorry, that you showed us with the language. Can you elaborate?
It is not the idea that this serves a means to an end, because that's what you're trying to apply it as. It has to serve some type of means to an end. So again, left hand here, right hand here. Make a fist, extend. What was the purpose behind any of that? Can any of you tell us? Go ahead, pop on your microphones right now. Can any of you tell us what was the purpose behind that? You don't really have an explanation, do you? Because there is no purpose to it. It is simply the expression of sharing one's love as the language. You see, the whole idea here is that many of you will see this as a means to an end. It's not to say that you cannot use this in any way that you wish, but you feel, well, I can limit it in this way. It can be used in this way. And that's not what we're saying. We are giving you that gesture of pure, unconditional love. Does unconditional love have a means to an end? Does it have only a certain theme that it should be applied for? No. It's unconditional love for the sake of giving unconditional love. And that is not the purpose. That is its nature. Therefore, we would suggest that when you look at many of these practices, as you would say, you take the word practices out of them and you simply see it as unconditional expression, which means it is for simply the nature of being an expression, not for the purpose, but for its nature. Now, if you decide to utilize that as a means to alleviate suffering, go for it, but that's not the only way, that's not the only means for it. It is a nature, not a purpose. A purpose is a thought. A purpose is a potentiality. In other words, it's pretty much useless because it does not measure to the nature of actuality. Actuality is what is taking place experientially right now as fact. It is the spiritual fact. And if that is not what you're reflecting on right here, right now, everything simply exists as potential, and you are basically draining yourself very slowly because you are looking at what ifs and hypotheses and thoughts and free will and choices, all potentialities. that are basically just exhausting your energy. You're burning up prana by doing that. So what is it that keeps you completely in a state of expansion, completely keeps you in a state of delight, of joy, of happiness, of beingness, being here, right now in your center? That is the conservation. That is the preservation to your natural beingness, is looking into actuality, in looking into what actually is, not what might be. Not I'm going to utilize this just as a possibility for this. As we said, it's an unconditional expression. It's an unconditional nature. Just as love is an unconditional nature. So if you decide to utilize it in that sense as the alleviation of suffering, go ahead. But realize that what you're really doing is you're just using the ocean to scrub something clean. Is that the only purpose of the ocean, is just to bring in a piece of garment and just start washing it clean in the ocean? Okay, well, the ocean served its purpose right now. That's all it needs to be about. No. The ocean has infinite possibility, just as your love has infinite possibility. And it's just an expression, just like we would wash a garment in the ocean to take away the debris and to clean it up. That doesn't mean that that's the only purpose of the ocean. Neither is this the only purpose relating to your love. It can be used for that, but that is one of an infinite number of everything pertaining to its nature that it is. It does not even wish to be used. It does not have to be used because it simply is. Love is not acquired. Love is what you are. It is your nature. So we would like you to reflect upon what we have shared. We thank you.
Thank you, Adronis, for that answer. Thank you, Liliana, for that question. We now go on to Maria Rice, who asks, Adronis, could you explain quantum healing and give us some techniques on how to do it? Thank you.
What does the word quantum mean? Can any of you tell us that? What does quantum mean? It's quite simple. That which is quantifiable. That which you can measure. Do you see how quantum healing really doesn't make sense? Because you are trying to confine, you are trying to limit, you are trying to quantify, you are trying to calculate that which is infinite. Therefore, we would say take quantum healing out. And we would say simply put infinite alignment back in its place. Healing is all meant for the reason of alignment, to bringing you back into center. It's work. So you are performing the infinite work to know that you are the center. If your healing practice does not reflect this, then this is not the practice that we speak of. Anything and everything that represents the nature of you being able to return back into your center is your alignment. Healing is just the work that is helping you to return back into your center. And you notice how we're doing this quite a bit, because this is our expression representing returning back to center. Bring your hands out, put it into a fist, bring it back here. Come back to center. That's all you're doing. So again, you're looking at technicality. You're looking at process. You're looking at procedure. You're looking at preconceived notions relating to something that's infinite. You can't do it. You see how the mind cannot perceive the infinite? It can't. It needs a procedure. It needs a process. It needs a method. It needs something that it can categorize, that it can compartmentalize, that it can quantify, that it can calculate, that it can try to put inside a room and say, here you go, guys, here's the infinite. Can't work that way. Anytime that you are trying to put something in boundaries, you do not know the infinite. What we would suggest is let the infinite be the infinite. and let the infinite speak and work through you. So forget the idea of quantum healing. Throw it away. Infinite alignment, which means it can come about in any shape, way, form, expression that it wishes, that will enable you to return to the center, to where you now know the self. Which means it has the ability to rejuvenate and regenerate all. It has the ability to replenish, to restore, to revitalize yourself and others. It has the ability to create worlds. It has the ability to create life. It has the ability to create itself. Can you see that? Everything that we've just described. That is the power. That is the infinite that is working through you to bring you here. That's all it takes. Does it take a lot of effort, Adronis? Does it take me years to master this? No. The only thing you need to spend with the nature of your time is telling you that you cannot do this. That's what has to go. That's where you need to spend your time. I need to let go. I need to soften. I need to weaken. I need to lighten up. And I need to center myself away from anything that tells me I am not the infinite. That I'm just a lowly human, that I'm just in a vessel, and that I just have had this particular form of trance-induced hypnosis to make me feel that I am a mortal instrument. And once this body goes, then I go. Do many of you believe that? We would say many of you do not believe that, but you're still taking it in, feeling as if that is the case. We talked to many of you throughout the years and saying, do you just see yourself as the body? Well, no, Adronis. Then why do you keep acting like it? Do you see yourself only as the mind? Well, no, Adronis. Then why do you keep acting like it? Because that's what you're doing. You keep acting like this is who you are. This physical body is you. And when it goes kaput, you go kaput. You know that's not the case. When you're able to leave the mind just by going into deep sleep, and you have a restful sleep, and you wake up the next morning and say, I just completely zonked out. I had no recollection about what I dreamed about. I was just out like that. I had no recollection of my body. I had no recollection of my mind, but I slept soundly. So when you know you've had experiences like that, why do you keep acting and thinking that you're just a limited body, a limited form, a limited mind, when you know that's not the case? Can you tell us? You see, you need to look at these identification habits. Feeling that you're a limited body. Feeling that through quantum healing, I'll do this. What is the true nature of quantum healing? Throw it away. It's a fancy phrase. The only thing that truly is you as the self in your center. And that everything you do is looking to bring you here. Not over here, not over here, not up here, not up here, not down here, not in here, all around, etc. Scattering yourself, because that's what's happening. You're scattering yourself off. You're peeling off these aspects of yourself and you're throwing them everywhere. You're angry about this, you throw it over here. You're upset about this, you throw it over here. You're sad about this, you throw it over here. Everything's scattered. Whereas we say, come into your center, and all of those scattered pieces return back into one. This is not difficult, dear humans. This is the simplest thing that you can do. But you see yourselves so tiny. You see yourselves so feeble, so fractured, so fragile, that you don't let yourself experience this. When we have come through time and time again and saying, just come back into your center, come back into the infinite nature of you, and it is here. We want you to work with that. Forget quantum healing. Come into your center and surrender and be the infinite to which you are. That is the true nature. All right. Thank you for your question.
Thank you for that question, and thank you, Adronis, for that answer. We now move to Justin, who asks, what are the best ways to connect to your inner intuition for divination, such as tarot? What are the best ways to nourish and connect your inner guidance and higher self? Thank you.
To connect to yourself, well, let's take away the tarot here from you. Let's take away any particular form of practice or method that's in the way. Let's just say, for example, that you wish to be one with the higher self. All right? So, what is preventing you from moving into being the higher self? Do any of you know? It's your own ego. It's your own shadow. It is your own obstructions to thinking the higher self is separate from me. That my intention to connect with the higher self will be very difficult because it's something else. Because it's something outside of me. It's something that lives up here while I'm down here. And so basically all that's happened is that you've skewed your subtle bodies. You've skewed your subtle bodies because of how you resist yourselves to be infinite. It's the same answer we have just given previously with the last question. So therefore, your intention, if it is not pure, will get you nowhere. If your intention really is not to align yourself to have a tarot reading, or if it is not to align yourself to connect with the higher self, then you stay where you are. You stay with skewed bodies. Here's your physical body. Here's your subtle body. Here's your causal body. Here's your emotional body. Here's your mental body. They're all skewed because of what you have validated yourself to be. I'm just some feeble human who's having all of these problems, who's knee deep in suffering, and I'm not going to amount to anything. There's your skewing. Now, someone tell us this. Killian, we would suggest you tell us this. How do we bring all of that back together?
We return to center.
What are we doing right now?
Returning to center.
We're returning to center. Yes. And that brings everything back together. So whether you wish to align yourself as an intention to connect with the tarot to get a wonderful reading, come to center. Whether you want to connect with the higher self and have that pure intention of being one with the higher self, come to center. Whether you want to end all of your suffering, just like that, come to center. That's all that you have to do. The center point is the source. The center point is God. The center point is the true self. It is the Atman. It is the I am. It is thou. That's it. What we are teaching you here is the most elementary form to realizing who and what you are through the expression of these words. But see, words can never really tell you what you are able to achieve. Words are more so aligned to telling you what you are not. This language can never, ever tell you what to do to bring you into the succession of your center. Because words can't do it. It is your own intention to do so that goes beyond words, that goes beyond form, that goes beyond image, that goes beyond object, that goes beyond color, that goes beyond anything that you can identify within the mind, because that's what so many of you are trying to do. Through some type of vision, I'll come back to center. Can't be done. Through some type of object that I will consecrate, that I will focus so much on, I'll come back to center. Can't be done. To come back to center is to come back to center, so that everything aligns together with you as one. So you're not stretched out like an accordion. You're bringing yourself back together so that everything aligns back to the center as one. That's how it's done. Regardless of any question that you have, that's how it's done. Return to center through the intention to return to center. Not with words, not with song, not with chanting, but through the simple intention to be the center by surrendering. Because surrendering is what brings you to center and to stay here. We want you to do something for us right now. We want you to completely be seated and don't move. Don't move a muscle. And we want you just to slowly breathe in and slowly breathe out. And we want you to be aware of how you are breathing. And we want you to be aware of how you are still. And now we want you to take your hand, your right hand, make it into a fist, and bring it here. And just saying to yourself, this is my center. And be aware of your stillness, and be aware of your breath. And now just be aware. Were you able to do that? You see, it did not come through the words. It came through the moment to come to your center, where the mind was quiet, where the body was quiet, where you are simply starting off with being aware of your breath, being aware of the stillness, and then just being aware. And that's you back in your center. Was that difficult? All you have to do is bring yourself there as frequently as possible and stay there. And when you stay there, that is you in the heart of your center. That is everything coming back to you. That is the nature of your magnetism, bringing itself back. The surrender is the force that is bringing all that magnetism back into the center point, to where you know yourself to be God, to where you know yourself to be spirit, the self, the Atman, the I am, thou. That's all there is to it. Do you see how simple this is? And it's a matter of continuing to frequently explore yourself at the center. Because at the center, you may feel like you're still, but at the same time, you are moving at infinite speeds, and you are everywhere, you are everyone, you are everything. You are the center. Even though the center appears still, it is moving at infinite speeds. It's like a top that is spinning so fast that it appears still. But it's not. It's moving so quickly, it just appears to be still. You see, that's the secret. We thank you for your question. We will take one more question before we conclude this interaction today.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm still recovering in the sense from that experience. We move on now to Gail, who asks, does Kundalini awakening connect you with God consciousness?
It does.
I went through a course with a master and it took months, but I didn't feel anything different. Did I have a Kundalini awakening without knowing I did? Thank you.
To know the nature of Kundalini is, again, even looking into your ancient Indian references, is that you have Kundalini Shakti. that is moving through the alignment of the spine once the spine is appropriately aligned, and it flows in harmony. And it moves all the way up past the 6 chakras up into the Padma that you would understand as the crown lotus, to where you basically experience the opening of Sahasrara, to which is taking place at that time is a reorientation in regards to the brain's internal structure, where you will actually see the nature of the Om sign taking place as you actually look at the brain from a certain angle. We mean it very literally when we say that you are actually opening up lotuses in the body. When you're opening up a chakra, its own physical appearance is actually that resembles a lotus, exactly as how the Indians have explained it, relating to their amount of petals. This is something that if you were to perform an autopsy on a yogi who was successful in opening up their Kundalini, you would actually see that certain aspects pertaining to their own physical body resemble that of lotuses. When you open up the skull and you look at it from a certain angle, you will actually see the symbol of Om there, contained inside the brain, and the brain in that sense extending itself like petals. This is a very literal transmission that is taking place when you awaken the Kundalini. Now, Adronis, do I need to feel the idea of the Kundalini flowing through me when it happens? No, you don't. There are those who cannot even feel it because they have not worked to appropriate their subtle bodies. Their subtle bodies are not in the appropriate configuration to feel the subtlety of energy flowing through the top of the spine, all the way up to the skull, all the way up to Sahasrara. Some can, some may not. Doesn't mean that a Kundalini awakening has not happened. It all depends upon the facilitator. Now, it's true that there may be some facilitators who believe that they can do this, when in fact, they may not. It all depends in regards to facilitation. This is why you want to spend more time looking into yourself. What transpired? Were you able to feel it? If you are not able to feel it, what do you feel inside yourself right now? So that's something that you have to address with yourself. That's something that you have to go within yourself to feel. Do I feel that indeed my Kundalini has been awoken? And if not, then that's something I need to work on. I want to realign my bodies. How do I do that? Just like this. And staying here as long as possible. And what that does is that is an assemblage to your own subtle bodies. They are now building a foundation. Your body is being crystallized because it's at the center. The center of every cell contains the source. The center of every atom contains the source. The center within you is the source. The center within all life is the source. And that is what you are aligning to by doing this, to enable your own subtle bodies to be built upon the foundation so that everything can be felt. You see? So it's about checking in with yourself, not relying upon somebody else to tell you. Check in with yourself, feel for yourself where you are at. You have the power to do it by being here. All right? We thank you all for your questions, for this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who have tuned into this transmission, and we will speak to you again in another perspective of the now. Goodbye for now. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of today's transmission with Adronis. Had a great time there, right? Showing us some great expressions. I'm trying to remember exactly what he did here. Kind of doing like this and going out and back. Yeah, the duck bills. I gotta try and remember that. I have to look back on it. Great, guys. Thank you again for your questions. Thank you to all attendees. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube as well, too. We'll be back again in another 2 weeks. to do another transmissions with Adronis. I'm also going to be doing some videos with him in the next little while as well too, to bring in some new exciting topics for the YouTube channel. Blessings to you all, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Killian, for moderating. Always appreciate it. I'll see you back here in 2 weeks again, I imagine. And thank you again, everybody. Have a great rest of the day, great rest of the weekend. Namaskar, and may it be well with you. Bye for now.